Be prepared. The most dangerous kind of burnout is the one you don't even notice happening until you're already disconnected. You're not losing your fire. You're not behind. But something is off, and it starts this week. From the outside, July's third week looks calm. But beneath the surface, something's slipping. It's the kind of energy that slowly pulls you off course without a warning sign. No drama, no meltdown, just misalignment. This is the week where people give up on things they were born to do, not because they want to, but because they can't feel the why anymore. And if you've been feeling like giving up, don't. There's one very specific reason that feeling is hitting you right now, and it's not because you're weak. I'll tell you exactly what it means and what to do about it later in the video, so stay with me. Oh, and if you've been feeling drained or off lately, feel free to share what's been coming up for you. And if it resonates, you can leave 111 along with your thoughts in order to align with the shift that's trying to happen. Because the real threat, it rewires your thinking and makes you believe it was your idea. It won't knock, it'll whisper. Disconnection doesn't arrive with sirens. It shows up in little choices. I'll journal tomorrow. I need a break, just one more video. It's not a big deal. But every time you postpone, ignore, delay, you lose a fraction of signal. It's not a collapse, it's a quiet leak. And by the time you notice, your inner compass is gone. This week, July 13th through 19th, is designed to disorient you slowly. Not because anything dramatic is happening, but because almost nothing is. Stillness is the trap. And the moment you stop listening, the static takes over. There are specific energies coming up this week: a rare Moon-Saturn alignment, a compression phase on the 18th, things most people will overlook. But if you understand how they work, you can use them to cut through the fog instead of getting lost in it. Because if you're not spiritually anchored this week, you won't just lose direction, you'll forget you even had one. That fatigue, it's not physical, it's energetic. That random exhaustion you've been carrying, even after a full night of sleep, that's not your body begging for rest. That's spiritual signal interference. When your connection to Source weakens, your energy field starts absorbing everything. Thoughts that aren't yours, worry that isn't yours, even moods that don't belong to you. You're not just tired, you're overloaded. Your system is trying to process a flood of noise it was never meant to carry. Ambient tension, low-level panic, other people's unspoken chaos. It builds up quietly until you find yourself in bed wondering why even breathing feels heavy. This third week of July is full of empty space on the outside, but that space acts like a sponge. It soaks up whatever energy is floating around. And if you're not careful, it will soak you into it too. Spiritual disconnection isn't a shutdown, it's a distortion. You're still running, just on the wrong frequency. This isn't about doing more. It's not about being productive. It's about getting your channel clear again. Because when your connection is off, rest doesn't work. Focus doesn't land. Movement doesn't align. Only reconnection restores the signal. And this week, it's not optional. It's survival. Because if you don't take control of your energy, something else will. Just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it's aligned. Here's what you need to understand about this week. It's Saturn retrograde, the moon's in its waning phase, and your mind will try to compensate for the spiritual static by filling the space with busy work. You'll be tempted to say yes to things that look harmless, a new project, a spontaneous plan, another quick favor. But if you're not centered, those little yeses will quietly bleed your soul dry. Your schedule might fill up. Your soul will stay empty. This week's energy creates a false sense of momentum, but it's directionless, like hitting the gas in fog. You'll feel like you're moving, but you won't know where you're going, and by the time you realize it, you'll be surrounded by things that don't resonate, can't fulfill you, and were never meant to be yours. When you're spiritually disconnected, decision-making becomes reactive. You agree to things because you don't want to disappoint. You sign on because it's easier than explaining why you shouldn't. You keep going because stopping would mean asking what you really want, and sometimes you're afraid of the answer. The only way to avoid it is to reconnect. Every single day, check in, get still. Say no to the noise so you can say yes to the signal. Because this week isn't testing your productivity, it's testing your discernment. And most people won't realize they failed until their calendar is full and their spirit is gone. You're not overreacting, you're absorbing. There's something strange that happens when you're not spiritually grounded. You stop filtering what's yours from what's not. And without even realizing it, you become a silent sponge for the chaos around you. Conversations drain you. People vent and leave you feeling heavy. You step into a room and your chest tightens, not because of the space itself, but because of what's floating in it. You'll feel drained, but it's not your sadness. It's spiritual secondhand smoke. This third week of July is a trap for the unguarded empath. The moon, in conjunction with Saturn, brings pressure that doesn't scream, it whispers. You won't see it coming. Instead, you'll find yourself carrying things. Tension that isn't yours, fatigue that doesn't belong to your body, anxiety that entered through someone else's words and settled into your spine. And here's the worst part. The more disconnected you are, the more available you become to be used as a dumping ground for unresolved pain, not just from individuals, but from the collective energy itself. You'll feel like you need to be there for everyone. But in reality, you're just leaking. People don't do this consciously. Most don't even know they're doing it. But energy is intelligent. It looks for an open door, and disconnection leaves yours wide open. Boundaries are not just emotional. They're energetic. And when you're connected, those boundaries don't need to be shouted. They resonate. You stop being a target for energy that's not yours to hold. This week will test that more than you think. You'll be offered someone's anger, someone's confusion, someone's invisible weight, and you might feel tempted to carry it. Don't. Staying connected isn't selfish, it's sacred self-respect. If you don't protect your field, you'll become a landfill for what others refuse to process. You're not here to soak up, you're here to stand up. Because if you don't take space for your energy this week, something or someone else will. There's nothing wrong with your intuition. You've just been too far away to hear it. When you're spiritually disconnected, every little decision turns into a puzzle. You second-guess yourself constantly. You reread texts. You overthink pauses in conversations. You sit with a decision for days and still feel like you're wrong no matter what you choose. But here's the truth. You're not indecisive. You're not confused. You're just disconnected from the one voice that actually knows what's right, your own. Reconnection brings clarity, not through logic, but through resonance. When you're grounded in your spiritual center, the guessing game disappears. You stop obsessing over signs. You stop waiting for the stars to spell out your path in perfect sequence. Instead, something in your chest just says, this is right, this is not. And you feel it, instantly, quietly, without proof and without the need for it. That is the power of self-trust. And this week is begging for it. Because with the moon shrinking into its final quarter and Saturn's slow, heavy influence pressing into your thoughts, it'll be way too easy to fall into loops. Should I do this? Should I wait? What if I mess up? What if I'm wrong again? But here's the thing. Hesitation is a symptom of disconnection. It's what happens when you can't hear your own truth over the static of fear, pressure, and noise. You stop needing a sign for every step because you feel when it's right. That's the shift you need this week. Not a list of do's and don'ts, not another tarot spread, just stillness, just alignment, just enough connection that when you ask yourself, is this right? The answer doesn't come from your brain, it comes from your being. You know what to do. You've always known. You just need to get close enough to yourself again to remember. The universe is speaking louder than ever, but if you're disconnected, all you'll hear is static. There's something about this week, July 13th to 19th, that's layered in subtlety. It won't shout at you with signs you're used to. You might not get repeating numbers. No glowing dream visitation, no glowing crystal moment of clarity. Instead, the universe is slipping codes into things you'll want to ignore. Awkward silences, weird timing, minor setbacks, people saying too much or too little. That mistake you almost made? That wasn't a failure, that was redirection. That friend who cancelled last minute? That was protection. That strange feeling when you walked into a room? That was a nudge. But here's the catch, if you're spiritually disconnected, none of it registers. You'll brush it off as randomness, chalk it up to a bad day, blame it on coincidence. But it's not. None of it is random right now. This week, things are being woven together behind the scenes, and you only get to glimpse the threads if you're connected enough to notice. The universe is trying to send you a code, but it only works on a connected frequency. There's something you've been asking for clarity on. Whether you've said it out loud or whispered it in your mind, the question is hanging in your field. What do I do next? What's real and what's just noise? Can I trust this? You might not get a direct answer, but you will get a clue, maybe even several. But they won't come in the form you want. They'll come in the form you need, inconvenient, offbeat, delayed, or disguised. And here's the danger. If you miss it, you'll repeat the same cycle again. The conversation, the wrong decision, the emotional loop, and you'll feel like nothing's working when in reality, you just didn't catch the code. So this week, stay close to your own awareness. Slow down when things get strange. Pause when something feels off. Don't just label it as annoying or inconvenient. Ask, why now? Why this? Because something is trying to get your attention, but it's not going to beg. What if the desire to quit isn't failure, but disconnection? There's a heaviness building in the background of this week. It's subtle, but it lingers. You might wake up already tired. You might feel like everything is taking too long, like the point is gone, like you've been trying so hard for so long, and for what? That's not depression. That's not laziness. That's not the universe turning against you. That's signal loss. Spiritual disconnection doesn't destroy your soul, it just blocks the frequency. When your internal connection dims, life starts to feel like you're walking through water. Everything feels heavier than it should. You start questioning your path, your progress, and your purpose. You can't tell if your doubt is a gut instinct or just static. And this week, that static might get loud. This isn't just energetic fatigue, it's interference. You're picking up on something misaligned. but you're too far from your core to read it properly. So the message becomes, give up, let go. It's not worth it. But you have to stop right there and ask the question that matters more than anything this week. Is this intuition or interference? When you're disconnected, everything feels like a red flag. But when you're connected, you can tell what's real, what's fear, what's ego, what's truth. You don't throw out your compass just because the sky is cloudy. You don't abandon the road just because you can't see the end. You realign, you breathe, you wait for the mist to pass. This week might tempt you to walk away from something you actually need to keep going with. And the only way to know for sure is to reconnect. Because clarity doesn't scream, it returns. And when it does, the heaviness lifts. The path lights up again, and suddenly you remember, oh, I wasn't lost. I just couldn't hear myself. If you feel spiritually offline this week, it might be because your life is too predictable. We talk a lot about chaos, about the overwhelm, about the distractions. But we don't talk enough about the quiet enemy that drains your spiritual fire the fastest: monotony. The same thoughts, the same routes, the same conversations, the same inner loops. The same tasks repeated until they're no longer decisions, they're just reflexes. And this third week of July, that sameness will feel extra heavy. Why? Because the cosmic energy is pushing for conscious interruption. But if you're locked in autopilot, you won't even notice it happening. When routine becomes ritual without presence, it becomes a cage disguised as control. We convince ourselves that repetition equals safety, that if we just keep doing what we've been doing, we'll stay stable. But spiritual connection doesn't thrive in comfort zones. It needs space, curiosity, movement. It needs to feel alive. So if you've been feeling foggy, uninspired, or disconnected from yourself, don't just ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, when was the last time I did something that cracked me open a little, that pulled me into the now, that reminded me of how big, weird, raw, or beautiful life can be? That doesn't mean a huge change. You don't have to drop everything and run off to the mountains unless you want to. But you do need to disturb the sleep cycle of your spirit. Take a different street. Speak a scary truth. Say no to something you always say yes to. Listen to a kind of music your ego hates. Try stillness or try chaos, depending on which one you've been avoiding. Because here's the truth. You don't always need more information. You don't always need more healing. Sometimes you just need to wake yourself up. This week will test your ability to stay awake in your own life. Don't let your routines become your prison. Don't mistake predictability for peace, and don't confuse numbness with stability. Ask yourself, what would it take for me to feel spiritually alive again? And then, go do that. Your purpose didn't disappear. You just can't feel it through the fog. This is the most dangerous trick disconnection plays. Not the tiredness, not the confusion, not the overthinking, but the quiet lie that creeps in at 3 a.m. or while you're brushing your teeth or staring blankly at your screen. Maybe none of this matters. And at first, it sounds like just a thought, a passing shadow. But if you don't catch it, if you're spiritually disconnected, it settles in. It starts to shape how you move, how you see yourself, how you show up for your life. It makes you shrink, numb out, float through your days instead of choosing them. Disconnection doesn't take away your purpose, it just makes you forget how to feel it. And the most painful part? People start believing it's them. They say, I've lost myself, when what they've really lost is alignment. They say, I don't know who I am anymore, when all that's happened is they've wandered too far from presence. Because here's the truth most people miss. Your purpose isn't a job, or a relationship, or a goal you chase. Your purpose is aliveness. It's the clarity that blooms when you're aligned with your own soul. It's what speaks through your body before your brain has time to explain it away. But when you're disconnected, you'll keep going to your mind, asking it to deliver clarity it can't give. And your mind, doing its best, will say, "I don't know, maybe there isn't one." That's not truth, that's static. You don't find your purpose by thinking harder. You feel it, you remember it. And that only happens when you come back into presence. So if you're spiraling this week, thinking nothing makes sense, thinking maybe you're broken, or it's too late, or you missed your moment, stop. Close your eyes. Breathe. Get quiet enough to hear the signal again. Because it's still there. It never left. And when you reconnect, you'll remember what it feels like to be lit from the inside out. You'll remember, I was never off path. I just stopped listening. You don't just attract bad energy when disconnected, you start generating it. This is the part people don't want to hear. It's easy to talk about energy vampires like they're someone else, that draining friend, that boss who always dumps emotional weight, that stranger who left you feeling heavy for no reason. But what if you become that person and don't even know it? Because here's the twist. Disconnection doesn't just leave you vulnerable to low energy, it makes you produce it. When you're spiritually disconnected, you stop reflecting and start reacting. Think about it. When your soul isn't centered, your body goes into default. You lash out, you overshare, you trauma dump without realizing, you get passive-aggressive, you ghost people, you project your own confusion onto everyone around you and call it intuition. You demand emotional presence from others that you're not giving to yourself. And none of it is because you're a bad person. It's because you're lost in the noise, because your own system is frantically looking for connection, but reaching out in the most chaotic ways possible. And you don't even notice you're doing it. Disconnection breeds reaction. Connection creates response. When you're connected, you pause. You listen. You ask questions. You observe your patterns instead of spilling them everywhere. You become a space of calm in a world of storms, instead of another unpredictable wave crashing into someone else's shore. But when you're disconnected, everything feels like a trigger. Someone being quiet feels like rejection. Someone saying, "not now," feels like you're not enough. And you respond from that wound, not because you're malicious, but because you've forgotten how to listen inward. That's the danger of this week. The energy is subtle. The alignment is thin. And if you're not grounded, you'll leak your pain onto others and call it truth. So check yourself. Not with shame, not with guilt, but with honesty. This week is not about being perfect. It's about being aware. Because the moment you realize you're slipping, you can pause. You can come back to yourself. Your presence isn't just protection, it's medicine. And when you return to it, everyone around you heals a little too. Don't become a source of the noise you're trying to escape. Reconnect and become the clarity you've been looking for. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.